Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage New North Board member Vicki Updike.
I am so excited about the turnout we have here today and the great networking and just the excitement in the room. So thanks for being here. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Matt Hunsaker. Matt is the campus dean for the Medical College of Wisconsin Green Bay in partnership with St. Norbert College. He has provided the overall leadership and management of MCW's Community Medical Education Program, which welcomed its first students in July of this year. Very exciting. You can see Matt's full bio in your program for further information. But what excites me about having Matt in our community is that he is teaching future doctors right here in Northeast Wisconsin. So our students can stay in the region and hopefully get their education and then work in this great community of ours. Please welcome Dr. Matt Hunsaker.
Good morning. I stand between you and Tim Bergstrom, kind of as a soothing cream after Dan and in between Sam. But it's my pleasure to be with you, and I think one of the challenges in a TED Talk format is how do you develop this? How do you say what you need to say and do it succinctly? But I'll do my best. I want to start out with that many years ago, when I was working in academia, I was concerned that students were becoming technicians. We were teaching them bioscience and releasing them into the public in a very technical way, and in some measure, we were losing that human touch, which is a part of the profession of being a physician, a healer. So as I was doing that work at Illinois, I was working in the rural program, and I said, we really need to take the students out somewhere. They need to see the field. They need to see what patients look like before they get to our world so that we can make that connection to where they come from, who they are, and how they wind up in our space as physicians. So we had for many years done a program that we called No Harm on the Farm. And when the theme of collaboration this morning, I was thinking back, we had people from State Line Farm Rescue from Wisconsin. We had the Orangeville, Illinois Fire Department volunteers taking a day off work. We had the ambulance service. Okay, so what? We'd done it 10 years. We'd stood in the snow in early November. We'd stood out there in a cold winter rain that was early. And I always wondered, is this really valuable to the students? And I was always invested in, does this have educational value that contributes to the strength of our students? Okay, well, I kept justifying every year the cost, the time, the students getting pulled out of school. And then about 3 years ago, something amazing happened. Something really amazing. We'd been going to the Shy Dairy Farm for 10 years. Doug had let our students have free run of the farm. He would kind of narrate, here are the risks that farmers face when they're on the farm. In a dairy operation, you've got animals, you've got grain, you've got all these things that represent risk to people like me, the farmer on the farm. And the students would take that all in. So when they went back to class and they talked about animal diseases and risk and trauma and how to do that, they knew what they were talking about when they saw that patient, the farmer, the rural community member. So fast forward year 7, 8 of this, I'm tired. It's always cold. Can't we do this in August or September? Can't we move this? No, the schedule fits here. There was an accident at Shy Dairy Farm. They had a contractor on the farm. They were doing haylage. Haylage where you chop up hay and put in those big long white bags. I saw the x-rays, pretty serious. I saw the CT scan. Wow, did this guy make it? And for all these years, we'd been marching around the farm. This is how it goes. Up, here comes the helicopter right on cue. Take the patient from the extrication to the hospital. We had done the demonstration. And I will tell you as a physician, only once in my life have I ever heard the following phrase. I stood there listening to the audio tape of the call, State Line Farm Rescue en route, 22 minutes, Orangeville, on scene. There's a delay in the audio tape. And then for a moment, for just one moment, tears flooded out of my eyes when the guy from the ambulance service said, "Put the helicopter down where you land for the students." The helicopter lands. They loaded that young man in the helicopter. 1 year later, this kid came walking across on the farm day, and I had heard he had survived, but you never know. Head injury, exposed tissue, that's a big deal. Sometimes those people survive, but things are broken. This guy came over and he says, "Are you Dr. Hunsaker?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me. Can I help you?" And I'm kind of busy. I got all this stuff. Can't you see I'm doing PTOs, and I got over here a grain bin thing. And he says, "I'm Andy." I said, "Andy, hi, nice to..." And then it dawned on me, this was the young man. And there for one moment, I realized that all that collaboration, all those volunteer firemen taking the day off, all that stuff we did together, medical education, the community, and people partnering, wasn't for me, wasn't for my students. It was for all of us. It was for Andy standing on the farm, getting injured, and having the people having worked together, built strength, trust, partnership, and all the elements so that he could not only survive, but he could walk across that tilled field with a cane, with a neck brace, but alive, talking, walking, and headed back to a working job. That's what we're talking about when we say think shift. Think shift is not the things that we have done, not the things that we are hoping to do, but the things we do together to promote the work of each other. I want to take a few minutes and tell you about the work we're doing in Green Bay, but I think first we ought to take a moment and talk about medical education history. If you think of the last 100 years, medical education was largely taught at academic medical centers, very specialized. There was always a little bit of an edge of, we have primary care, but we have surgery, oncology, all those things. In this state, we have 2 medical schools, both in the southern portion of the state. You might be surprised to know, with the fantastic efforts at both of those world-class medical education centers, the top 1/3 of the state is a health professions shortage area. Catch that. 370 graduates a year, and the 3rd northern part of the state, a health professions shortage area. That's important because for 100 years, there have been no new campuses. It's historic, really. The first new campus in the state we opened July 1st in Green Bay. That means that this is the first new campus since the Wright brothers went to Kitty Hawk. Think about that. Everything you know about flying, space flight, electronics, software, computers that don't fill rooms, all of that. Long ago, the last time a school opened. So as we think about this theme of Think Shift, where that hits home for us is we are not doing what we have done for 100 years. 2 years of preclinical, 2 years of clinical, and off you go to residency. We are designing models based on efficiency, educational leveraging of technology, and doing it in a space that is in the context of where we hope students will practice. So our mission in Green Bay is we're not building a world-class medical center of our own under the MCW banner. We're partnering with all the community hospital partners that are in the community, as well as the educational partners, to deliver both the education, the engagement, the networking, and that sense of place that comes with being in the region. As we've built the model, we know from little bits and pieces around the country how to do this type of work. We know from 4 or 5 schools, if you pick local students who are engaged and interested, if they train in the region, they come back. Thank you, Howard Rabinowitz at Jefferson. If you build the school in Duluth, you have a high concentration around the school. Thank you, Jim Bolger at Duluth. What we're doing at MCW is think shift type stuff. We didn't build a $180 million edifice out in the middle of an open field. We partnered with our colleagues from St. Norbert and very graciously with many others educationally and clinically in the community. What that did is it allowed us a 36 months from concept to opening time period. It also, at 24 months when I came on board, we had a lot to do. It meant that we were making partnerships that med schools don't often make. What do I mean when I say that? There's been a body of work that I've been involved in for the last 10 or so years in academia, where we've involved communities in selecting the next generation of physicians. Historically, in medical education, we have taken top-rated applicants based on GPA and MCAT score, scaled them, and then they were offered interviews of one faculty and one student, or one faculty and one researcher, and that selected physicians. The work I've been involved in as part of this campus, but also in the past, is that communities do a much better job of voicing what they want in the non-cognitive features of a physician. If you give me enough time, I can take high schoolers and teach them all the science of medicine. What I can't always teach people is empathy, compassion, communication, cooperation, interprofessional respect. Those are keys to the workforce we're training for the future. In the work that we're doing, we have what's called a Regional Applicant Advisory Committee. It means that we've selected members from the community. They help us screen applications. We've trained them. They serve silently and anonymously. We say thank you to the RAC, but we don't say this person, this person, this person, which allows them not to be subject to, hey, my kid's got an application in at that med school. Can you help us? We want them to serve anonymously and have that ability to use their own good judgment on who we interview and who we select. How do we get to the people they see? We know that all the students coming to that applicant pool, and I might add, last year for our first class, we had over 2,000 applications for 25 spots. Out of that, a large cadre, about 400, were from Wisconsin, and I am very proud to report that 23 of the 26 students who sit in the class are Wisconsin residents. They're from here, from places you know. They're from places you know like Neenah, Kaukauna, Bonduel, places that are in the region and in the state. We know that those students, taught in the right context, with the right partners, make the best local physicians, and they stay. We don't have to incentivize them. We don't have to offer them something extravagant to provide that care, and that's what's built into the model, cooked into the mix, so to speak. With all that in play, I thought I would say just a couple things that I think are key. If you're sitting there wondering, well, me and my business, my government job, my whatever, what does this think shift thing intersect with me? I think there are really three keys. Last 2 years, much of my work has been in three real concepts. One is trust, building trust among atypical partners who compete in the marketplace as healthcare entities, who they want those patients, they want those contracts, they want that insurance product, but we had to build trust among dissimilar partners who often have histories of adversarial or controversial business moves and get them to work together in a space called education. Partnership, that moment where you have a self-interest, they have a self-interest, but you find a mutual destiny together. That's partnership. It's not agnostic. People come to the partnership with something to gain from working together, and by putting together the right people in the right space, that partnership has electricity. Ideas flow, and things happen, and they happen positively. The other thing I would say that was key to all this is culture. We started out building a very small shop for the campus because we're leveraging the culture of our partners at St. Norbert, our partners at Bellin College, and others to work together. I didn't build a student center. We share the St. Norbert facilities for those kinds of things. But when you build a culture of respect and cooperation, you free up the people around you to be excellent. You free up people who know their job, but are looking for that creative opening to solve problems and do them in the best way. See, we are dealing with a generation of learners, and in my case, employees, where there is a shift in expertise. A shift in expertise, it's almost an inversion of expertise. I didn't grow up with computers except the Apple IIc late, okay? But I have people who've never used a typewriter. We are seeing learners now who are progressing through junior high who don't write in cursive. There are very different people among us who have different skills. And the way we build power in these entities we call business, education, government, is through leveraging the strengths of those people. I think probably the biggest example I can think of, and some of you have heard me say this before, November 14th, 1969, the biggest experience inversion in history. Neil, Buzz, they'd been to the moon. That whole Saturn V thing was a little passé. We went to the moon, took some pictures, left the flag, we're home, good. Think about it. The next one, Apollo 12, six-man space flight. They have the trenches, all those guys who sit at the desks, telemetry, glasses, pocket protector. You had one, didn't you? You're smiling. You had a pocket protector. They're sitting there. Lightning strikes the capsule shortly after launch. They're going to lose 3 astronauts. Conrad's at the seat. They lose all telemetry. Gene Kranz, the flight director, puts his hands on his hips and he says, "Gentlemen, what do we do here?" The biggest nerd in the space program, John Aaron, ECOM, the electrical guy, not the steely-eyed missile man, the electrical guy, had experimented. He'd been playing around with the electronics a few months earlier, and he found out, when you do this, you get this weird pattern, but if you switch the SCE to aux, it comes back normal. Really? Try that again. Yeah, that's what it does. Huh, cool. Puts that in his memory bank. And that experience inversion that day saved the astronauts. He was the only guy who knew where the SCE switch did, or where it was and what it did. And he threw the switch. It wasn't Gene Kranz, flight director. It wasn't Deke Slayton. It wasn't a high-profile Corvette driving, steely-eyed missile man. It was a nerd in the front who had the expertise. That is what we're doing in ThinkShift. We're taking the things that are foreign to us, switching the ideas up, and making that happen. I got a few moments left. One other concept I want to leave you with. If you think about marching band music, many of us have grown up in a culture of marching band music. Uniforms, hats, scripted music, drum major. And the music is played. We do that in business, we do it in healthcare, we've done it everywhere. I want you to think for just 1 second about the conductor, the really good conductors. They get up there and their hair flies, their eyes are open. And 150 artists come together for one purpose, and they all do their part at the maximum of their ability. And together, the great conductors, they aren't the ones who get fired. They're the ones who lead. They lead with authority, not by the position, not by the phone extension or title, but because the people are so excited to be around that energy, to work together and build something cool, new, and successful every time they sit down for that concert. That's our role as leaders. As we think about this ThinkShift, we need to be the conductors with the passion for the vision to be able to articulate the culture that includes the respect, the cooperation, the innovation, and the space for people around us who are terribly talented to excel and do their best. Thank you.